control, but
No, totally. No problem.
yeah. This is, that's one of the things I kind of like about life is that it is a lot like music. And, even if you have the best laid plans, sometimes
Oh,
things come
yeah,
along,
definitely.
and you just have
That's
to go
kind of
with
what
it.
it's all about when you're actually playing. It's like, whoa.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I see that we are live. Welcome everybody. The world is right again. All of our social platforms are up and working. So as Americans, we know how to function one more time. I am Aaron Vaughn, and I am the coordinator of guitar at the Kent State University at Stark in North Canton, Ohio. We are in the midst of our 6th guitar weekend where we feature guitarists from all styles, genres, eras, all that good stuff. And tonight, I'm very, very excited to be here with Bill Frisell. For those that are uninitiated, if that's not a name you're familiar with, Bill has been a performer, composer, collaborator for many, many, many years. I would say that a lot of people probably first came to know of Bill with his work. At ECM in the early 80s. But, as a leader and as a sideman, his discography, if we just read that tonight, that would take up the whole time. So there are plenty of resources to check that out. I'm thrilled to be here with you and welcome. And thank you for joining us, Bill.
Oh, thanks. I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So, we were trying to figure out how we wanted to do things tonight, and I did. Where are you at this point? Do you want to see if we get some comments here rolling? Do we want to? You want to play a little something first?
Whatever you want me to just play. I'll try to think of a song to play, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give us something, and that'll give an opportunity for the chat to get going. And and then whenever you're done, we'll pick it up.
Cool.
Great.
As usual, I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, but I'll start.
That's quite all right. Let's see what happens. Fantastic. I could have guessed probably 100 tunes before I would have guessed When You Wish Upon a Star to open the show.
Yeah, I wasn't like we were talking a little bit earlier, and I'm never quite, I actually didn't know. I don't know what made me think about that right now, but I wasn't up to the moment I started, I played a couple notes and then, oh yeah, okay, I guess I'll just play that. Hadn't played it in quite a while either, so.
Sure, sure. So it's fantastic that you kind of started with that, and that was your first comment, because there's already a pile of things in the chat that really kind of talk about or questions about this whole approach to solo guitar. Before we got started, we were talking about the horror of solo guitar and the fact that
Yeah.
there's nowhere to hide, and there's no rhythm section, and if you miss a downbeat with a root note or something, there's no bass player there, covering
Yeah.
you up. And so there's a question that asks, the balance between rubato and time when you're playing solo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, somebody asked,
Um,
you know, how do you do that, and what would you advise somebody that's just getting started with doing solo guitar work like that?
well, oh wow. Yeah, that I mean, I'm sort of analyzing what I just did. If I which is sometimes it's weird for me to think about when you go back and, oh well, yeah, what was I just, sometimes it's easier for someone else to tell me, oh, you did this and you did that, but that was more in the realm of rubato, I would say. It was more like that song that goes way back into my childhood, really, like when I used to watch the Mickey Mouse or The Wonderful World of Disney on television.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, when I was in elementary school and Jiminy Cricket would be singing that song. And then, so it's something that's way deep down inside of me. And as I was playing now, I stayed really close to the melody the whole time. Most whatever else I played was some sort of a comment. It's like, when something gets that's my hope, is whatever, of course you can't, not every song is going to be a lifetime of being there for you, but my hope, whatever song I'm playing, I'm trying to get it so internalized that I'm not having to think about any kind of what notes I'm even, it's more like singing, like if you're just, sometimes I talk about, like if you're just walking down the street and you're whistling some melody and you're not even conscious of it maybe. And so just then I was really just letting the melody carry me along, and it would sort of dictate the rhythm of it. I guess there was moments when I was playing more in time, or
Sure.
and then playing alone, you're free to go in and out, and hopefully when you're playing with other people, you're free to go in and out too. That's the other thing. Like if everyone is on the same page, really listening to each other,
Sure.
it's not like you have to be, again, I'm talking about this sort of rubato thing. It's a beautiful way for groups to play together, I think, where if everyone's, the melody becomes the architecture and everyone's holding on to that and listening to each other, it can be
Yeah.
good.
Magic can happen. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as playing free like that in rubato, For me, because music, I think for guitar players, a lot of times, it's it's always one of those things where a drummer will count a tune off, and we're supposed to stay kind of within that, plus or minus, a few clicks
Yeah,
for human error. Um, but rubato and playing kind of free like that is, I think, foreign for a lot of guitar players. And listening to like piano players accompany a vocalist, I think
yeah,
for me
yeah.
that was a thing where I started to understand that kind of dance, between
Yeah, yeah,
how the harmony and the melody work together and interact. And I loved what you said about, you were letting the melody dictate everything, and that everything else was just kind of commentary. So like your
yeah,
bass line, as you were moving up into the next melody, or the next part of the melody, any passing chords that you were playing to get to the next part of the melody. I think that idea of, as crazy as it may sound, even though we're talking about a song that was very much kind of in the jazz tradition, popular music, the idea of polyphony and multiple lines kind of moving together,
yeah, yeah.
is all kind of intertwined in that. Even though the language is different, it's not completely and entirely removed from like J.S. Bach, or
No,
something.
it really is very similar, actually. I think, it's
Yeah. Let's see. So let's. I wanted to see whatever, whatever anybody else had to ask about. There's a great question here, and I know that a lot of your material that you do is, chord melody based. And somebody asked, it would be great to hear you talk about, your compositional conception. How does that germinate? Does it begin with a melody? Does it begin with a chord progression? What are the things that influence you and inspire you in composition?
yeah, it's such a long, it's been a lifetime. I mean, long process. I think earlier on, it's like this struggle to get what I write as spontaneous as what I can play.
Mhm.
And that's been coming closer and closer together. Like when you're playing live on a gig, you can't go back, and you have to make it work in that moment, right? So that's what my life has pretty much been from even, when I very first started playing. It was always about playing with other people, and that's what, I don't want to veer off in what the situation we're in now, but that's what's been so difficult this last year about not really being able to play with people, because that's been my life. And so you're in this state of, of course you have rehearsals, or sometimes, or maybe not, but I've been lucky to do a lot of gigs, and this sort of experience of really dealing with in the moment. And that's the world I'm in when I'm playing. You just, if you make a mistake, then you try to do something that'll make it sound like you meant it, or whatever, make it
Sure.
sound good. Or
Yeah.
so when I started to write, I think the biggest hurdle I had, or what got in my way, was like, it's okay, you got, and I still use a pencil and a paper, and I write that way, and suddenly you have the ability to judge you write something down, you get some idea, and okay, I write it down, and then immediately in my mind it's like, that sucks, or whatever.
Right.
And that's shouldn't, what I'm anybody that's listening here, don't let your mind do that. What I try to get at is just keep writing, don't judge it at the
Sure.
moment. Just, and for me it's slower than if I'm just playing, but I'm writing it down. So it's like kind of this slow motion thing. And I'm trying to get past the judgment, because that just blocks the whole process. And the judgment can come later. So when I write, it's first I try to get the stuff out. Like I have piles and piles of these notebooks and stuff that I've written. And then once it's down, then I can go back and they're like, a lot of times it's a fully formed thing that I like, or maybe I don't like it, or at least it's there, and then I can judge it later, or then it can start actually maybe growing into something else. Or
Sure.
so
Yeah. One of the things that I think all creative people struggle with is just, as you said, like shutting off the inner editor, just letting it happen and going,
yeah,
okay, you'll have a moment to evaluate this and tell me what you think. But yeah, just kind of the purge of getting your ideas down.
yeah,
And not conflating the composition process with like the editing process, because those are,
yeah, because
those can be two different things.
it's not um well, the same thing happens when you're playing live. I notice like sometimes it can go either way. Like I'll do a gig and they record it and I'm thinking, wow, we were playing like amazing, that was incredible. And then you listen to the tape and it's like, man, what was I thinking? Or the same thing, you think, oh, I can't play at all. I'm just struggling with everything. And then you hear the actual, what I'm saying, what's going on in your head many times has little to do with what's actually
What's
the
happening in the
actual
room.
music that's coming out.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great thing to remember, stay out of your own way, whether you're playing or
Yeah,
you're composing, and allowing yourself that freedom to, kind of follow maybe that intuitive thing, because, if you
yeah,
do think about it too much, sometimes you can chase it right away, whatever it is that you're trying to get to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Music is uh it can overwhelm you, like what you're that's the other thing. I try to not be, you have to be happy with just being in it, doing the work. You none of us are ever gonna, you can't think I'm gonna get this all together and then I'm gonna do something. It's like it doesn't work that way. You have to just, you're never gonna get it all together. Anybody that says they got music together is, I'm sorry, they're
Yeah,
lying,
they're not being honest with themselves. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
you never really summit. You plateau in places, but you
yeah.
never get to the top, and you stick your pole in and go,
Yeah, no,
yes, I
it's
figured it out.
wherever you are, it's always what's out front of you is infinite again. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me kind of pivot off of that. Somebody asked a really really great question about reharmonization of like a traditional or really known work, country piece, folk song, something like that. For you, is that an oral process? Is that something that has to germinate? Do you try different versions? Is it in a constant state of flux? Can you address that a bit?
Um, yeah, it's hard to pin these things down. So, like, again, back to that thing about absorbing the melody so that it's so deep down
Mhm.
that then it's like you can like just try something. If you've got it. Uh, it's like this it's this long process. I mean of course, I went to school and I learned this and I learned that and I can, but then there's a point where hopefully your ear takes over, that your ear will pull you to somewhere.
Sure.
And a lot of it has to do with, again, with the melody. you can hang things on it. It's like trying to think of like some like that song Shenandoah I play all the time. You know, it's just such the simple, but it's beautiful melody. You know, like just two chords, right? D, G, D. You know, you can't get much simpler than that. But then, now here's where I'm going to get in trouble, because I'm going to try to demonstrate some real fancy thing. Let's see. You know, you have all the notes in the scale. Like that's all diatonic. I haven't played one note that's not. Whoops. I'm trying to stay within just the scale, but or you can play just staying within the scale again, like almost you get a conversation going. You know, like it's like the melody starts talking with somebody else. There's different characters start happening. But then you can just start trying stuff if you want to get. I don't even know what I did there. Something with fourths. You know, there I'm just playing the interval of a fourth.
Just playing
like, I wonder what that sounds like. You know, I'm not even quite
Yeah.
That's where also mistakes can be great. Like if you don't panic when you make a mistake, that's where I found some really cool stuff. Like,
Sure.
Like, uh-oh, I played a, you know, but wait a minute, maybe that sounds cool, you know.
Yeah, I think the size of the error is proportionate to your response to it, you know. And if you just kind of live with it for a moment and go, well, this has potential. Let me see where this could go.
Yeah,
For sure.
and yeah, there's a, like, I remember when I was in high school, I was in this. I've told this story before, but it was like this I was in this band, and we got it was like a huge big deal. It was like the homecoming dance, and we got that gig. And so we're going to play, the whole school is there in the fall of my senior year, and my band, and it was like this kind of funk band. We played like James Brown stuff and Temptations and stuff. And I was so excited, they have it in the whole entryway of the school is just packed with people, and we start the first song, and it's like a James Brown song, and I start it by myself, like with this one chord, right? And the band had horns in it, and like I'm playing the thing, and drums come in, and then the rest of the band comes in, but I was like a half step away from, so like the horns come in with their part, and it's like a half, and I was like, oh my God, it was like, talk about a heart attack. I just thought that just blew the whole gig for me. But if that happened now, I'd be more open to it, but
Right, absolutely.
but it was like shocking.
Sure. And that's one of those things too, where, there's no private lesson for that moment. There's nothing a teacher or a mentor is going to tell you. You just have to like be in the burning building and go, all right, how do I get out of this? So yeah, experience is the best teacher. I think in a lot of those cases. There was another question kind of relating to that chord melody thing. And you've brought this up several times, and I kind of want to hit on this because melody, it seems like that's kind of the origin of all things for you, at least in the conversation that we've had so far, that it is, you said it was the architecture of the tune. And so when you're learning a new piece, do you spend time just exploring the melody, different ranges, different parts of the guitar, different keys, and finding where it really sits for the instrument, and just kind of what your conception and what your vision for the arrangement is?
Yeah, definitely, like learning it in different registers and different keys is kind of a great, because the same, it'll sound like that, what I was just playing, it just, open D, but if you do it in E flat, it then other harmonics will start having, there's all that open string stuff with the guitar that sometimes you don't get any open strings.
Sure.
But then also, like, if it's in E flat, there are some open strings in there too, that not many. Things start ringing in a different way.
Sure, absolutely. And when you're doing things that are the other thing I enjoyed about just the treatment of Shenandoah that you played too, is that anytime I hear you do a rendering of a folk tune, I always feel like there's a sense of the history and the style that it was written in. I don't ever feel like it, you're trying to outsmart yourself. You're like speaking the language of the piece and also the era too. Is that a conscious thing?
Well, I hope, I love to try to find where it comes from, and sometimes it doesn't need, it's not like we're all smarter than the person that wrote the song or something, so sometimes it just doesn't need more than what's already there, I guess. So I like it to, if you're going to go away from it, I think it's important at least to start with let it be an organic process that grows from your knowing what the roots of it are, that's rather than just, I still don't buy into that thing about these hierarchies, that folk music is down here and classical is up here. And to me, it's all, not one is easier or harder than the other. And it's, so the idea is not to just, oh, this is so simple, I'm going to start adding stuff right away. There's a lot of stuff in just the simplicity of some. It's not all, it's not, maybe that's not the right word. They're not so simple, actually.
Right.
Just because it has 3 chords or 2 chords doesn't mean that it's simple or easy to play.
Sure. And I can't, I know I'm completely butchering the quote, and I'm not even going to try the I want to say it's Picasso, but I could be wrong. It took him his entire life to learn how to paint like a child.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's that way. I think a lot of players, regardless of their instrument, I know guitar players is always that, kind of young gunslinger mentality where we just want to lay out everybody with the amount of notes and the hipness of this and the, all of that. And then you get to the point to where you realize, some of that stuff is unnecessary or, maybe even, kind of foolish for the style or whatever. And kind of all of the unnecessary items just kind of start falling away. And
Yeah, that's the thing about distilling things down. Try to get really to the point, the exact point that you're trying to make. You don't have to, and space, but also the thing you said about child, that's, to me, is like, that's what I'm trying. I want to be in that place, like where you're like, try to remember what something sounded like the very first time you ever heard it, or
right.
or if you listen to something that you've heard a million times, try to, I know it's impossible, but like, listen to Louis Armstrong and think, well, wow, what if I'd never heard this before? What would it sound like? Imagine it's 1927 and you walk into a bar and you never heard this music before, and it's like, what in the world? What is this going on with this? And
Right.
to keep that, that's a struggle. I mean, that's the place I want to be all the time with whatever I'm playing. It's,
Right.
you have to trick yourself maybe, but
Yeah, well, I think that goes back to the compositional thing we were talking about. And once I make this point too, there's some other really great things in the chat I want to get in here. But that idea, like when you're composing, and I talked about shutting off the inner editor. You give a kid a big box of like Crayola 64 crayons, and a
yeah,
gigantic piece of white paper, and you say draw something. They're not worried about the tree looking like a tree,
yeah,
or the
yeah,
dog looking like a dog, or the house looking exactly like their house. They're just creating and just getting it all on the page like you were talking about.
yeah,
And then we become musicians and we get trained and we carry all of this baggage with us, and it's almost like we cripple ourselves to
yeah,
not be able to get back to that place that you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a balance. Like you're trying to, like I'm trying to learn more every day, and but uh, yeah, it's
you, you
trying to
never get
stay in
there. you,
touch
ne-
with
you
it.
never arrive. It's, yeah, I mean, it's a daily thing. It really is. um there was a comment here about your um uniqueness in your singularity as far as the instrument goes. I mean, w- I think when guitar players and fans hear you, they immediately they know. I mean, you've just, your style is very, very um clear. And has that been has maintaining that been a struggle, and not kind of doing that guitar player thing of looking over your shoulder and trying to, kind of keep up with the Joneses, or this was the thing that was in vogue at this particular time. This is, this is the style that you need to play. These are the, this is the gear you've got to have. I mean, how did you remain, focused on that path for yourself?
Yeah, I'm asked that a lot, and I mean, a lot of it is just, I think everyone has their own sound. We all have our own voice, and a big part of it, there's a number of things, but a big part of it is just not being afraid to, I think we all, that like inside, what you like or what you love, what gets you excited. And if you can be honest with that, and also honest with where you come from and what your experience is, that's what gives you your voice. Like, not trying, it's hard to talk about this stuff because it's like a paradox, of course there's I hesitate, everything I say, there's the opposite is probably true too. But a lot of it just not being afraid to show who you are. Like, there were definitely times in my life, probably still now, but definitely more earlier, where I wanted, maybe there was something I heard on the radio. Wow, that's really beautiful, but I don't think people would think that's cool. So I don't want people to know that I actually like, you're trying to be too hip or something. Like,
Right.
like when I started discovering what we call jazz music, there was definitely a period where I shut out all the music that had got me playing in the first place. And that really wasn't an honest thing to do, because why should I shut out my lifetime and suddenly pretend, it's 1970 and I'm pretending like it's 1956. It's not 1956. And I didn't grow up in the 30s and 40s. And, whatever. I grew up in Denver, and I watched the Mickey Mouse Club on TV, and, that was my life. So I let that stuff come back in and try to not be ashamed of where I came from,
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's also our limitation. Everybody has some sort of, I mean, my limitations on the instrument are, it's ridiculous. I mean, I feel like I can't even hardly play this thing, but somehow I'm gonna get it out some way. Like a lot of what I play is an approximation of what I wish I could play, like
Right.
you're imagining something in your head, and then, well, I can't quite do that, so I'm going to just imply it or something. So that, and I think that's shapes all of us, with, there's a story about Miles Davis. I don't even know if that's true. I read it in some book somewhere about Miles Davis couldn't play. I don't know if he couldn't play as high as Dizzy Gillespie or something. Okay. So he played lower, and he found it's like his voice, like if you think, wow, if he had just played exactly like Dizzy Gillespie, we wouldn't have Miles Davis. We already had Dizzy Gillespie. Let's have, right. So it's there's something about coming to term. You have to push against your limitations, of course, but also just getting comfortable with where you're at, and then trying to make a story with what you got. Like, that's what I want to hear. Oh yeah, that's what the other day. I just want to, since this is, I don't know if there's students, I don't know who's exactly listening or what, but in the, I should have written down the exact, I was in the car on the radio on the jazz station and they played, it's uh it's called Funky Blues, and
Hmm.
it's it's been released in a number of different, one album I think it's under Charlie Parker's name, and another album it's under Johnny Hodges' name. And all it is, it's a slow blues. This is like a lesson, a major lesson in, basically the tune is the most minimal, it's like just a medium slow blues. And there's, oh, this is terrible because I'm not going to remember everyone that played, but there's a bunch of people. There's Johnny Hodges plays first,
Hmm.
then Charlie Parker plays,
Hmm.
then Benny Carter plays, and then Flip Phillips. I can't, there's, and then there's Barney Kessel plays guitar, Oscar Peterson plays piano. I'm saying there's like about 8 soloists, and they're all using the same material that we all know, you know, it's
Right.
just, but the, it's just like, wow. The, each, how each one is like, it's like another universe every time, and they each play just 2 choruses, right?
Hmm.
And it's like a lesson in individuality or something. And also surprising, you know, you hear Charlie Parker play, and then and then Benny Carter play, they're playing the same instrument, and you're thinking that, you know, Benny Carter is like supposed to be from a generation before Charlie Parker, and Benny Carter plays stuff like, wait a second, what, you know, he's playing stuff that sounds more abstract and more avant-garde than what Charlie Parker was playing. And then you go back and Johnny Hodges and his sound, and it's like, anyway, I would highly recommend that people just, it just blew my, I was just thinking what a lesson that was, you know.
Sure. Well, like you said, the idea is before you even said it, I was thinking a lesson in individuality because you said, here are these changes we've heard a bunch of times, but everybody's played over a bunch of times, and you've got all of these different players on, whether they were an alto player or a tenor player, they're basically playing an aerophone shaped like a saxophone, and
Yeah,
just the range of different ideas and expression that you got in
yeah,
those 24 measures from each person. I know as soon as I'm done tonight, that's going to be one of the first things I do is go listen to that, just purely out of interest to see.
yeah, it's,
And it's probably a jazz history lesson in in a way as well in terms of ideas, vocabulary, and all of that.
yeah, yeah, that just, that was so great.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, we all, I don't know, the idea is to try to find your own way of doing it, but then also you could tell that they all respected each other, they all listened to what each other was doing, they learned from each other, but then they still, they each had their own story and their own history and everything. So,
Yeah. I love the idea of how you tied the idea of yourself into it and knowing where you come from and um letting who you are as a person inform your music too, and kind of letting that come through and letting your influences come out. I mean, the fact that you opened with When You Wish Upon a Star, and that is something that's like bleached into your bones. You said it's something
right.
that got imprinted on you way before you had a guitar in your hand. I'm not exactly sure if it was at the same time when you started playing clarinet or not, but
Yeah,
that's just
even before that, you know, it's more like, I don't know how old I was.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are things that just, um, I think sometimes whether we want them to or not, kind of leak out. Those things do get out, but just being aware of those and allowing them to come out, I think is very, very important. And I also think that's part of the maturing process as a musician as well. You know, you kind of realize what it is that you're after musically, and you really truly find the things that you value as a musician,
Yeah, yeah,
and you know, and you start to kind of you know, let those things resonate and you know, kind of come to the surface as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't happen overnight. It's just, it's again, it's like a lifetime
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, I was in a rehearsal with a really outstanding conductor, jazz band leader. And he, you know, he just kind of sat there after a section that we ran, you know, and he rubbed the back of his neck and he's looking at the score and he was like, you know, he was talking to, you know, college students and he said, I just need you guys all to play like you know, have been playing for 40 years. And you saw in his face, he was like, I can't ask that of you because that's not where you're at. But that was what he was wanting. You know, it was kind
Yeah,
of a sense of ensemble and it was a time thing and an interpretation thing he was trying to get together. And it's not that anybody lacked the technical ability. It was just kind of that awareness and that again that sense of ensemble that he needed. And
yeah,
so yeah.
listening. I mean, that's again, there's also a great, again, I'll recommend it. There's an interview with Carla Bley that's Ethan Iverson, the pianist, he has a I guess it's a website or something called Do the Math. And he's interviewed all kinds of musicians. And I don't know how many people are familiar with Carla Bley, incredible composer, national treasure as far as I'm concerned. But this interview is filled with wisdom. I mean, she talks about one thing she says in there that really struck me. She said, and I don't have the exact quote, but she's talking about skill, how well you play the instrument really doesn't have that much to do with how musical you are, and also talks about the best musicians are the best listeners. It's about listening, so when what makes a band great is when everyone in the band is listening. It's not about how amazing that can be too, but no, it's about how they're listening. Their attention is on each other, like that's what gets me off the most, like listening to Miles Davis quintet or something. So you could pick out each guy and say, wow, that's the most incredible Tony Williams, that, or Herbie Hancock played this or whatever. All the guys in the band, it's like, it's mind-blowing. But the real mind-blowing thing is nobody plays anything that's not connected to what somebody else is. That's the extraordinary thing about some band like that, where it's, you know what I'm saying?
It's all very organic. Things are you know, happening in real time that were not discussed because everybody is tuned into what's happening and you know, doing their best to um, support, contextualize, and you know, really kind of elevate the other people that are around them,
Yeah,
and you know, and make the whole thing work together.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
like it's not like a soloist and then a bunch of guys just backing up the solo. It's every note that you hear is as important as,
Yeah.
it's
There's
like a
that.
three-dimensional, it's like you're inside of a mobile or something, and it's like, wow, this is, you can pick out anything you want to hear, and it'll blow
That's a
your
great
mind.
illustration. Yeah, I'm imagining a mobile with just different lights being shown through it, and depending upon where you're at, the perspective
Yeah,
changing. And
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be wild. So, Bill, I know that folks were here. They wanted to, hear you talk and kind of discuss music, but I also know they wanted to hear you play as well.
Uh-oh.
Uh,
Mhm.
Now, somebody put a request in here. I don't know, it said that you had posted the lead sheet for Chick on Facebook, and wanted to know if that would be anything that you would be interested in playing, and if not,
Oh, wow. Um, let me see. I could try. That'll give me something to do. I've I actually played it recently. We played at the village, like a streaming thing from the Village Vanguard, and I played it with my trio. That was the first time I wonder where it is. Let me see. Um, it's in one of these notebooks.
well, and I think I
um,
speak for everybody. I think anybody would be happy to hear you play anything. So
I mean, I'll try. Actually, that's a good. This puts the pressure on me. This is good.
pressure is good. All right, fantastic.
Let me see if I can. Where is it?
I love that you write everything still on manuscript paper with a pencil. That makes me feel like I'm not the only one.
Do you? I mean, I can't. I just the computer thing is just not.
I can't. I'm just very tactile. Like even if if I'm writing something, if I'm writing a paper or doing whatever, it starts for me with a stylus of some sort and a piece of paper. So yeah,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
ideas move better that way.
Sorry, I'm determined to do this. I'm gonna do it. I don't know it at all. Like I have to. I'm gonna have to look at it. I'm just thinking I should do this, and then if I'm gonna play sort of a little concert, that'll be separate from. Where is it? Oh, okay, I found it.
Cool.
Let me just see if I'll just play this. Haha. Oh dear. Because when I play, so I'm gonna play like a little sort of concert, and I don't want to be looking at stuff. I'm just gonna, when I do that, I want to just kind of play whatever comes into my mind,
Sure.
things I know, but I'll try to play this. Boy. Um,
It was beautiful. What do you mean, oh
I'm
boy?
I'm just, I'm like, oh, I can't. I was just looking at the. See, I don't. That's an example of I haven't internalized it. Even though I wrote it, I don't know it well, and I'm like looking at the notes and I'm calculating, and then my hand goes to the wrong place, all those things going in my mind. So,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
that would take me a while to, and it's even in a state, I don't know. I I didn't really know Chick. I got to play with him once, and
Mhm.
he was so generous, amazing, nice. And I heard him, quite a number of times, and he was on so many, life-changing, so much music that he was involved in that basically changed my life. And it was such a shock when he, it seemed like he was, it was a very bad surprise, and somehow that just came out. I think it was on that, whenever I heard that news, and I don't know what I'm saying. I don't even know if the tune is worthy to keep. There's a lot of stuff in these notebooks that I don't know if I'll keep them or what. But
Sure.
anyway, that's what came out at
Well,
that
no, that's
moment.
thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, it was beautiful and meditative. Yeah. Um, so, and you said that at this point you were, you would just like to kind of see what happens and see what falls out of the ends of your fingers. And
Yeah.
I know that I speak for everyone else that um, we would all love that too. And I got uh, the note here in the chat that there were tons of applause and positive comments coming from the viewers for Chick. So yeah, it was a hit for sure.
Oh, cool. Maybe I
Yeah.
won't throw it away yet.
Yeah, hang on to it. At least keep it in the folder.
um, so maybe we can come back after I'll play for a while and then come
Yeah,
back and see what's happening then.
yeah, and wrap it up because I believe we're on till 8. It is now 7:15. So yeah, play some numbers, and that'll probably generate some other things, and do real well to kind of wrap us up too. So
Okay, cool.
very good. So yeah, I'm gonna mute my stuff here and follow your muse, sir. Follow your muse.
Okay. Sometimes I'm not so great with keeping track of the time either, but hopefully well, you can hear me talk too. So if I get lost in outer space, you can reel me back
I'll be
in.
like, Bill, come back.
No, I'll be help, where am I? Okay, so I'll just play for a
Yeah, go
while.
for it. Yeah, take it away.
think I'll stop there.
Lovely. I felt like you just took us on an overview of American music from, roughly the early 1900s, all the way through. It was
Oh, great.
glorious. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you
see,
so
I
much.
don't even know if I remember what I played now. That's the problem when I play that way. Um,
Right.
oh, I started with a song called Yesterdays, Jerome Kern song.
Hmm.
And then I played a Monk song,
Hmm.
Crepuscule with Nelly. And then I'm not sure what I
Well, and I know you just ended with some Burt Bacharach there.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was one of those things that like when I was much younger, I used to think it was kind of corny and stuff. And
Sure.
as I got older, man alive, his tunes are mind-blowing, amazing, you know.
Yeah. 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 Stuff that you thought, and then you look back, however many years later, you're like, man, I wished I'd written that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or wish I had just started trying to play it. Well, no, I've been trying to play that song forever, and it's got all kinds of little weird twists and turns in it that it doesn't. It's amazing how he wrote huge hits, but they were, if you look at what the structures are, kind of, it's a lot of oddball, not common, and you know, odd phrasing and stuff in there. So
Yeah, absolutely. There was something that I was playing not long ago that was a Burt Bacharach tune, and I thought the exact same thing. I was like, man, the phrases were out of whack. There were
yeah,
like measures of two and three that were sneaking in. There
yeah,
was,
yeah, totally,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But he managed to, you know, it's like that's one of, at least when I was younger, you know, that's what you'd hear on the radio. Everybody was singing along with it, you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. There are all kinds of thanks coming in from the chat. Somebody also mentioned too, there was some Hoagie Carmichael in there. Winter always turns to spring.
Oh yeah, so oh that's good. So some people knew what I was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just this very, sinewy linkage of tunes that, spanned, better part of 100 years now at this point. So, yeah, amazing. Um, I don't want to, you know, take more of your time. We were so thrilled to have you here to share your wisdom, your thoughts on music, and just favoring us with your
No,
playing.
thanks for. It's great to be here. It's, you know, it's you're
Yeah,
not. I mean, just like I said, I've been sitting up here in this room the whole year.
sure. And has a lot of your time being passed sounded like that? Whiling away the hours with the acoustic.
Well, yeah, a lot of like I just pretty much I played this guitar so much this whole time. Just I don't know, I have a bunch of instruments and I somehow I just kept gravitating toward this, especially if I'm just playing by myself. Sometimes I'll play the electric, but mainly just play this. And but a lot of, you know, it's like these there's like all this stuff. I don't know if you can see. This is pretty much like every page of this is filled with, I don't know what it is from this last year. You know, every day I kind of, I don't practice so much anymore in the,
Mhm.
I guess a little more lately, it's more like practicing, but it's mostly writing these little, now it's getting to this absurd place. There's just, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff.
Yeah, well, clearly you're going to need a music librarian to catalog all of that
Oh
for
yeah, I
you.
could use, if you saw this place, it's a mess in here. I need some help.
Oh
Like
my
have a
goodness.
TV show, like one of those hoarder TV shows or something. It's like, wow, what this guy better lock him up, you
They're just carrying out cases and, reams of manuscript paper and all kinds of stuff. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us and being part of Guitar Weekend. For me, and I know that there were friends that had reached out to me too. This was a tremendous honor and a thrill for a lot of us. So, especially the last year and few weeks that we've all been living through, it's just fantastic to hear
Yeah.
some music and to get to talk about music with somebody that's given their entire life to it. So thank you for sharing it
Oh,
with us.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody else that's on the stream, I want to remind you also, if you enjoyed this, we've got a Q&A tomorrow at 1 with Mark Lettieri, guitarist extraordinaire, composer, producer. Many, I think, would know him as a member of Snarky Puppy. But he is going to be joining us tomorrow at 1. And then at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, Mark and his band are going to be coming live to us from a studio, I believe in Dallas is where they're going to be
Wow, they're gonna
located.
play. The whole band's gonna play.
Yeah,
Oh
they're gonna,
man, lucky
they're gonna play.
guys.
So hey, if you're not doing anything tomorrow night,
Oh yeah, I gotta check that out.
come
Say
hang
hi
out.
to those guys. I only met them once briefly, but
Yeah,
amazing musicians. Yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm again another player that I'm just really looking forward to chatting with and hearing the band too. It's going to be a really great night
that's
of
great. They get to
music.
play together. Wow. They
Yeah,
won't be
yeah.
doing it from all their separate, but they'll actually be in a room together playing.
Yeah, absolutely. They rented out a studio space and they're going to be able to distance within the
Oh,
studio.
so cool.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's going to be really outstanding. I'm very much looking forward to it. So yeah, it'll be 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, if you find yourself knocking about and going, hey, I kind of want to hear some live music by a band, be a great opportunity to check it out.
Cool.
Very good. Well, Bill, I'm going to sign off here. Continued health and wellness. And, we all very much look forward to seeing you again in person and hearing your, creative endeavors once we get back to normal.
Cool. Yeah, same. Everybody be safe and healthy and think things are looking up, right? We're going to be all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, take care, sir.
Okay, bye. Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Thank you.